Well, good morning. I keep saying that, but I keep looking at my watch going, is it still morning? Not quite for the house. First, I want to appreciate everybody, especially Matt, Kirsten, and the kids for being so nice. They've actually let me crash in their basement. They refer to me as the guy in our basement, which is creepy based on what I'm teaching today. But we're going to, let's see. Got them? Yeah. There we go. You may have to, doesn't it? Living in a world of technology. It's a creepy word, right? Wolves among sheep is what I call this. The realities of social media. Before we get started, real honest here. Raise your hand if you have social media. Those of you who didn't raise your hand, I said real honest here. Are you on Reddit? I said Reddit and your head snapped forward. That's social media, and I'll show you why in a minute. Is Google social media? Do you surf the web? Well, wait a minute. What's the definition of social media then? I thought it was Facebook, Twitter, TikTok. It is, and it's not. Social media is any time you are socially engineered by the media. Have you ever thought about it that way? Social media. You thought it was, I'm social with media online. I can be with people. The social media companies don't think of it that way. They think of it every time you're online, how do we make money off of you? My next question would be, raise your hand if you actually bought a social media app. Right, you didn't. So how do they make money? You pay for Facebook. Did you pay for Twitter? Did you pay for any of them? Now there's some messaging apps you may have had to pay for, but if you didn't pay, how are they rich? You go, oh, it's the ads. It's the ads. Yes, that's a good part of it. But we'll talk a little bit more about if it's really the ads. This is a slide that I just throw in here. I don't like resumes and I don't like bios, but I like to put this in here because you've probably heard these things before and you probably want to know from what point of authority am I speaking. Okay? As you can see there, at least a little. I've taught social media investigations, the dark side, at the Pentagon, in NASA. Don't ask me why NASA asked me to teach that. I've taught this all over the world, in at least 8 countries, because unfortunately it's what I did. And we'll talk about a little bit of that in a minute. And you say, what are you talking about? You getting people for, working on embezzlement? Sure, yeah. But the real side of what's happening in social media, even those that look completely benign. The reason I asked you earlier if you're on social media, and some of you said yes, and some of you said no, don't worry. Every class I've ever done does that. Because the case, I'm actually going to show you a case later, you would not have called it social media. But it was. I was looking for, there we go. I was speaking to Matt, and I was going back and forth, and I have actually multiple versions of this class, as you can imagine. I have one for law enforcement that is, if Matt thought this was scary, I have one for law enforcement that's way further. Okay? But I wanted to kind of tie this in. People ask me all the time, what's the Bible say about social media? You ever got that question, Matt? Right? And these are typically the answers I give. I don't know that God said ever social media, thou shalt not Facebook, thou shalt not tweet, right? No, but we understand that God gave us direction on how to protect ourselves, our family, our hearts, and our spirituality, and frankly, our sanctity. Jesus said in Matthew 10:16, behold, I am sending you out as sheep in the midst of wolves. My Sunday school class back in my church, we were talking one day, and I got to teach that, and everybody was like, oh, the old happy once you're a Christian, it's all good. And I go, that's not really what it says. What it says is it's hard work. It's rewarding work. But it's hard work. And Jesus literally said, I'm sending you out as sheep in the midst of wolves. So, be wise as serpents and innocent as doves. So how do you become wise as serpents? It's a hard one. How wise is a serpent? How innocent is a dove? We do that by sharing information with each other, right? I'm here at Aspen Grove Church, but the Bible also teaches that the church is the church. Not a church here and a church here and a church here and a church here. So we share this information amongst each other to help each other become as wise as serpents. So here's a question for you. How many social media sites exist today? Somebody take a shot. 37. Do I hear more? It's like an auction. 1,000. Do I hear more? I don't know. I'm not telling you the answer high or low. You may be high. You may be low. Here's the long and the short of it. Nobody really knows. Not even kidding. Go home and Google it. Nobody knows. But the estimate for today is somewhere over 5,000. And I said the estimate for today. Shall I go on tomorrow? The estimate could probably be 5,500, 6,000. Why? They make a lot of money. Sites are being developed constantly. Sites you've never heard of. I could give you a list of sites that you would never even know exist. So, how do you fight against 5,000? Well, let me give you some facts here. How many parents are in here? Raise your hand. Okay. Only 18% of parents are actually friend on their child's page, whatever that may be. Only 18% actually friend their child. Before we get to the question and answer, I'm going to jump ahead, because everybody always asks me, well, what's your... I have a 20-year-old. I almost called Jared 19. If he's watching, sorry. But I have a 20-year-old, and it just turned 13-year-old a couple of weeks ago. Okay? We spaced him out. I have a rule in my house. Absolutely no social media, and no free media. In other words, media I can't see until you leave my home. I have an app on my phone. I can literally see every text, every email, every piece of communication. Why is that? Probably because I've been on the bad side of this. It only takes one. I don't snoop. I'm not constantly in it. If attitudes change, if something's different, if they're kind of down, I ask, I don't get anything, I'm going to look. Why? I'm the parent. I'm here to protect. But only 18% of parents are actually friended on their child's page. Social media sites made $36.14 billion. That's a B in 2019. You go, that's a lot of money. Yet look at the next one. In 2021, they made $152 billion. If you owned a business that had that kind of growth, you'd be some kind of success business-wise, wouldn't you? I currently work for one of the largest businesses, one of the largest corporations in the world. Everybody in here would know it. Okay? We're nowhere near that. Right? 81% of all internet crime involves social media. I'll repeat that. 81% of all internet crime involves social media. I didn't just say this crime or that crime or this crime or that crime. We're talking theft, embezzlement, scams, and yes, the dark stuff. 81% involves social media. Now let's take that, let's stop right here. If 81% involves social media and only 18% of parents are actually friends, then let's look at the next stat. 50% of all internet crimes against children begin on social media. I did this class a few months ago. That number was 42. Grew 8% in a handful of months. Now, then you say, but DJ, you said you don't know how many sites there are. That's right. So, I'm an analyst by heart. How accurate are these numbers? These numbers are low. Because if we don't know how many sites there are, and we're still trying to figure out where they are, then the numbers are logically then low. 25% of Facebook users are under age 10. I probably should have done a handout that had a quiz. How old do you need to be legally to be on Twitter? Anybody know the answer?
18?
13. Over 13 is COPA, right? Yeah.
You're all right and you're all wrong depending on the current court documents. Twitter started at 13, they changed to 16, now they're headed back to 13. So if you're in the room and your child under 13 to 16 has these apps, you gave it to them and you changed their date of birth when you signed up. By the way, I'm a real straight shooter. Probably should have led with that. Like, you changed their date of birth to say they were a different age when the social media company, by law, has to say, hey, that date of birth's not good, they have to be this age, and you went, oh, let me add a couple of years. I had a friend of mine call me, such and such, their young child has got some guys creeping on her on social media, and I went, she's 10. Yeah. So you're punishing her for lying on the sign up? Oh no, we signed her up. And I said, quote, then this is your fault. We've got to be protectors. We've got to. I ask all the question, and by the way, 40% are under the age of 13. I ask people all the time this next one, how many people have security settings on social media? Raise your hand. Probably should have told you ahead of time that I actually have a piece of software on that laptop behind here that actually scans all social media activity wherever I am. And I did that last night. You might want to check again. You might want to check again. Only 14%. And the reason that's so low is because most people don't even know where they are. They put some like really easy to find. But then you got to really dig on some of these apps to find the real lockdown settings. One of the stats I couldn't find that I really would like to find is how many of your friends on social media are actually your friends and not people you're just creeping on. Like, somebody from high school that you knew and you haven't spoken to them since probably before graduation, but you friended them because you want to see what they're doing. Right? I mean, if you've got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or more 100,000 friends on your social media apps, do you really know them all, is the question. Do you really know them all? If your children have social media, do you as the parent know them all? And this isn't just children. What about your parents? The 70-year-olds, the 80-year-olds, right? Do you know all their friends? Scams in that age group are skyrocketing right now through social media. They come from an era of media means trust. Social media, therefore, must be media, therefore we must trust. They come from that era, right? You see it, you believe it. A few facts, I won't have you run through all of these, but I love this little page. I have to watch it closely because they update constantly. 4.62 billion social media users on the planet. By the way, the planet right now is about to crack, not quite, but we're getting really close to cracking 8 billion. 4.62 billion of those are social media users. It's a really good number for social media companies. Average number of social media platform users each month by user, this is very interesting, 7.5. You go, I don't use 7.5 social media platforms. Again, how do you define it? It's being defined as anything in which you are engaging that has at least ad capability, chat capability. Email quite hasn't hit that yet because it's old school. But if you use Google Chat, if you use Meet, if you use Messenger, that's all social media. Okay? This is a really interesting map that I found. This is a new one on this site. Might be a little difficult to read where you are, but just so you know, social media users via total population. 78% of all North America, not just the United States, all North America has social media. 78%. I felt it would be more, but that's still a very, very large number of people. I mean, and if you look around in here, you'll see Middle Africa, 9%. Oceania, it's Australia and such, 63. We got all the way at the highest, Northern Europe, Western Europe, 84 and 83%. Think about that number. Social media is not that old. Raise your hand in here if you can remember a time where you lived where there was none. Right. Right. I remember beginning these investigations back at the police department because nobody knew what they were. And I didn't know what they were. And there was like, maybe one or two. Right? Facebook started in a college dorm. It's supposed to be a chat group between graduating seniors. Oof. It's gone much, much further. What is important about this is to understand the layout of what we are looking at. So I then wanted to talk, what do we do? Mark 16, 15 through 16. And he said to them, go into all the world and proclaim the gospel to the whole creation. Remember that map we just saw? Not the whole creation, but it's a lot. Whoever believes and is baptized will be saved, but whoever does not believe will be condemned. I'm not here to completely condemn social media. I mean, there is a device in front of me that will be putting this on some type of social media or multiple social media platforms very shortly, if not right now. Yeah? Social media is not to be condemned. Social media is to be used carefully. Very carefully. I'm always a person that says, well, why? But why? Here's something for free. It's really cool. But why? So it's important for us to understand the but why. And then how do we use that in a biblical fashion to spread the word properly, but yet also keep the people that are under our care safe from the other side? This one's really, really disconcerting. Time spent on social media apps. Yes, that does say 23.7 hours a month on YouTube. YouTubers make a lot of money. There's a reason. Matt, I when I talk to you about, I forget the number, but there's a certain number of views you get, and then you begin to get paid per view. So all you have to get is those views. Remember the old adage in print media? What sells? Does preaching sell?
No.
Does preaching that is maybe contrary a little bit, walking that line, a little bit more happy, a little bit more carnival style, Barker, does that sell better?
Yeah.
It does, but it also twists the word. Look at these numbers. 19.6 hours on Facebook, 18.6 on WhatsApp, 11.2 on Instagram, 19.6 on TikTok. I don't know if you're like me, but doesn't it seem like TikTok just started? By the way, it is not a rumor that TikTok is owned 100% wholly and totally by the Chinese government. Not political, but let it sink in for a minute. There's two main places that most hacks occur into the United States or other places in the world. Russia is number one right now. China is number two. It's just interesting to me. A free app that has rocketed to second place in people spending time. So the interesting thing, though, is you see this ebb and flow. Facebook's still 19.6. Facebook is starting to head down in usership. Or let's just say it's plateauing with age. Is that a nice way to put that? Okay? TikTok is actually the place to be right now, right? Think about the time that is spent, and let's look at Proverbs 22:6. I just showed you probably at least a month's worth of time. Train up a child in the way he should go, and even when he is old, he will not depart from it. Who's training up our children? Better yet, if you are to train, who's training you? How much time do you spend on these? Now, there's good content. No doubt, there's good content on this. That's fine. It's not a problem. But where does the content start to tip? Where does the content start to move away? World's most used social media platforms. Number one is still Facebook, followed by YouTube, WhatsApp, Instagram, WeChat. I'm going to read these on purpose because you might not know some of these. WeChat, TikTok, Messenger, which I think should be at Facebook. Doughton. You guys heard of that one? Doutin. Yeah, it's exactly right, Doughton. Sina Weibo. You have a lot of that in Parker, Colorado. I told you I have a piece of software that actually tracks all of it. You have a massive amount of Sina Weibo in Parker, Colorado. What's Sina Weibo? It's Chinese Facebook. Literally, it's Chinese Facebook. There's some of these I can't even say. Pinterest, Twitter, Quora. I mean, this goes on and on and on. This chart is one of my favorites because it changes every time I log in. Every time I log in. When I first started doing these, that Facebook line would probably be over here at this other monitor. And everybody else would be like, we're trying. Right? And it's getting closer and closer and closer and closer. I like to show that, though, because I myself even learn about new ones. I didn't know what Sina Weibo was for a while. Anybody here heard of VK? VKontakte? That's Russian Twitter. And you have a lot of it in this area. Okay? These aren't inherently bad. But understand, if we were to train up our children, we should be knowledgeable in what they could possibly have or access. If they ask for an app on their phone and they come in and go, oh no, we're using it for school, it's called Sina Weibo. It's for language classes. You might go, oh, cool. Look it up first. Just make sure. Main reasons for using social media. I very rarely trust people when they say, this is why I use it. And here's why. Because of this, and this is a national average, now keep in mind what we just talked about a lot, number one answer, by quite a bit, was, just to keep in touch with friends. The reason I don't buy that is because how many people are actually your friends that you talk to on that regularly, right? I call it, creeping or just being nosy. Okay, I get it, all right? But then notice it changes. Number two is filling spare time. Well, I got to be honest with you too. This is the first time I've done this presentation where I pulled these new stats, and filling spare time was even on the list. Number two is filling spare. Think about that. I'm just filling my spare time. And then I immediately thought, man, I have been guilty of filling spare time with other things, right? But filling spare time with biblical knowledge or filling spare time with social media? And I made a mistake one time in this class when I started doing this originally. I actually asked somebody, anybody here want to tell me that you're completely locked down? And one guy in the back went, yep, I'm completely locked down. And I have my computer up here. This was a mistake. And I used my software and I pulled his social media in front of everybody in the room. The problem was, he wasn't exactly a preacher. And there it was in front of everybody. So I've stopped doing that. But what I do say is, are you sure that your activity is private? Luke 6:45 says, the good person, Out of the good treasures of his heart produces good. And the evil person out of his evil treasures produces evil, for out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. I'll go ahead and tell you, I refer to certain, like social media is like the devil's book, and I have these funny little terms, and I'm not on any of it. I have two, and they're for work, and I'm not on the rest of it. But how many times is vengeance laid out on social media that you would never do face to face with somebody else? Instead of having a conversation, we just throw mud. Matt asked me for this last night. Thank you. That's much easier. Matt asked me, you're right, you're smart. Matt asked me to give me this presentation last night. I was down in the basement, and I pulled this. Every little dot is not one social media hit. As a matter of fact, the one in the center is 37. There's one on here that's 89. There's one on here there are over 1,000 social media hits. You go, that's not bad for Parker. I pulled a 30-minute time frame. And no, you don't see everything. There is a running ticker down the side. You probably recognize some of those, but that ticker keeps going. Here's the scary part. I also have another side that actually shows your post and what you posted and all of the pictures you posted and the replies and the responses and the likes and your friends. And you go, DJ, you should be going to prison. There's no way you could have that. We do a whole class on this. There's a lot of activity on the deep and dark web here in Parker, Colorado. Because I just pulled that as well. Just a dark web search for just the word Parker, Colorado came up with 149 results. Deep web was 210, and social was another 31 in the last 10 minutes. And most of it is either selling services of people, or selling stolen goods, or selling illegal narcotics, not the ones that are legal. There's a lot of this going on. So then the question comes, how did I get that? How do I know that? I know that because there's another reason these social media sites are very, very rich. When you hit yes and accepted it, I'll be real honest here, who read all of the terms before you hit yes? All of those multiple pages that they offered you on that screen. Who hit yes? Who read them first? Nobody. You know what the very bottom says? That your data instantly becomes their data the second you post it. And they sell it. They literally sell it. These are aggregators. This is a completely legal company. This is a company aggregator. They take all of the data they buy from all the social media postings and they sell it to advertisers, to people like that. Now, the companies I work with, we sell it to law enforcement to find bad people. Okay? But they sell it to anybody who has the money for it. Now, think about that for a minute. Oh, I deleted mine. Doesn't matter. When you delete it, they get to keep it. Because it's theirs. The second it's on their platform, they own it. But you didn't read that. Everything your child ever posted is now theirs. Every picture of your child that was ever posted on any site is now owned by that site and then in perpetuity owned by anybody who buys it from the site. You are the product. And so are your children. It saddens me because of what I've had to see. Because then it's this, and yes, I've worked cases on this. You say slavery's over. There was Abraham Lincoln, Emancipation Proclamation, Juneteenth, all that wrong. There are actually more slaves on this planet today than there have been in all of the history of the world combined. Today, there are 30 million slaves on this planet. That's not a made-up number. That's a real number that we're working on in law enforcement. The average cost of a person right now on that dark web is $90. $90. 5.5 million of them are children. 300,000 of those children are here in the United States. Notice I didn't say came from the United States. They're here in some type of indentured servitude, whether it be, frankly, the sex trade or the work trade. They're here today. 76% of the victims were lured online. And you see the other estimates. Unfortunately, I live in the Metro Atlanta area. Metro Atlanta is the 4th highest volume for the slave trade in the world. And they know it. I know I'm going a little bit over time, but I want to really get into this. Romans 12:2. This just rang in my head. I didn't have to look up. I didn't have to think about it. What will be the next verse? Listen. Do not be conformed by this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that by testing you may discern what is the wisdom of God. And people ask if there's biblical knowledge on social media. Tell me this is not applicable. So that you may discern what is the will of the God and what is good and acceptable and perfect. Discernment. Wolves, sheep. It's Parker, Colorado. It's a beautiful place. Matt and I were just talking about, Chris and I were talking about how safe it was. I mean, I'm looking around going, this is a cool place. This is so great. It is. But there's also a lot of activity. Some of it legal, some of it illegal. Some of it just totally benign, some of it not. All I'm asking you to be is inquisitive. It's not an invasion of your child's rights if they are your child. You're the parent. You're there to protect. You say, no, it's okay, DJ. I'm going to walk around a little bit because this one gets me riled up. No, it's not. I worked this case. This young family came in to me. I was at my detective's desk. I happened to be the only one staying for lunch. And I got a call from the front desk. Hey, these people say their daughter's talking to this kid in the next city. You might be a little too old. You want to talk to her? No, not really. I have cases to do. But okay. So they bring it in. They got this laptop. I open it up. I did remove the picture of him. He looked like straight out bodybuilder, way tanned, a bunch of tile roofs behind him. Let me just tell you, there's no tile roofs at a coast in Atlanta. And I thought, that doesn't look right. And I said, can I look the rest of the way? And they said, sure. And I start looking through, and I'm like trying to figure this out. And she's just sitting like this. And they go, we don't even know how to log onto a computer. We don't know what she does on that. We just give her the device. She does it. We rented it for school. We whatever. Right? And I open her photos, and I'll never get them out of my head. I found the photos that he had her send him. And then how do I do it? I've got a bunch of chatter on here. I've got this chatter back and forth. He called himself Star Maker Mitch. I'll make you a star. How did he find her? Well, she was on a chat room. She was on Yahoo Chat. Just chatting like any of our social media apps today. And what was it? I just don't feel pretty. I just don't feel... This happens all the time. Check out your child's social media. These people are fishing. If they throw out I lost the big game, my parents are mad at me, I don't feel pretty. Male, female, does not matter. These folks are scraping, they're looking for those code words because they know that child is in a weakened state. And he came in, he told her how pretty she was, and how he could make her a star and just get her away from these horrible parents and this horrible life. He convinced her to take pictures of herself, clothed and unclothed. She was 12. He also convinced her to take pictures of her sister, who was 7. And you go, well, that's crooked, that's rotten, I hope you got it. I'm not done. He sent her plane tickets to New York through a friend. And she already had it set up to get that ride the next day. The next day. The parents just happened to bring her in. There was a lot of the hand of God in this. The parents happened to bring her in the day before the plane tickets were posted. And she had the ride set up for she and her sister to go to New York. Because they were going to be stars. Now, I didn't have these cool tools that we have now. But I did a lot of IP reversing and a lot of wizardry and all kinds of fun stuff that I learned. And I found out a lot of information on it. Go ahead. That's what an IP reverse looks like. There were 92 pages of that. And from those numbers, I had to go, where is he actually coming from? Because you can get all kinds of things and then ping the IPs back and forth and in different ways. And long story short, we were able to figure it out. That's a satellite photo of Star Maker Mitch, or also known as Mitch the Man. That little silver car, bottom left, is right there. A little Audi on the right there. I called the Virginia Bureau of Investigations in Woodbridge, Virginia. I called it. Now think about this. I'm going to throw this over the hill. Hey, I'm pretty sure I know this guy's address. I'm pretty sure I know this. I'm not sure about this. And they bid it, ran, invited me up. We went up and served a search warrant in Mitch's house. By the way, we'll pause here for a minute. That's his house. That's his car. No, he has no children. No, he wasn't married. Yes, he was a man. The car was full of girls' clothing, girls' baseball hats, little beaded necklaces. Go ahead. That says, no knocking, no soliciting, don't bother me. By the way, his apartment, because he's creepy, was in the basement of the apartments. Matt and I did some apartment knocking today in a creepy hallway. That was his. Go ahead. That's the inside. That mark on the side, that was his dog trying to get out. It wasn't real nice with the dog either. Go ahead. This is how he lived. By the way, this apartment complex was really nice. Woodbridge is not a cheap place to be. This is how it was. Pause right there. Again, you want to talk about the hand of God. Do you see that stack of papers to the left and to the right and all the computers and everything? Every single one of those had handwritten names of his victims in single space. Now I got a search warrant. Now I got to find information on my victim, don't I? Can you imagine how hard that would be? Except all I did was simply look down like this. My victim was the fourth name on the list, on the top page. I didn't need any more. Go ahead. That's the bathtub. This is a wonderful place. Go ahead. That's Star Maker Mitch. Yeah, it's creepy. It's funny, right? 77-year-old guy. Here's the bad part. We let Virginia prosecute him. They did. Found guilty. There's a group, there's an internet safety group called ICAC, International Crimes Against Children. We added 38,000 unknown images of sexual crimes against children to the ICAC database. It's the largest sex crimes database against children on the planet. We, in this one case, added 38,000 images. That's unheard of. We found out he was the largest purveyor of this kind of stuff on the East Coast I'd ever seen. There are 8 missing girls in his area. They're still missing. He never spoke a word to us. Not one. Until I got a phone call about 3 months ago from New York City. Their parole department. Remember New York? He didn't live in New York. What did he want from New York? Remember? He was going to meet the girls in New York, right? He wanted to move to New York. And thank goodness the parole board in New York, that's right, he's already out. In Georgia, we would never be out. We should have taken it ourselves, but they called me and said, yeah, this guy wants to move here. We want to ask you about it. I gave them the whole story. They denied it. But here's the thing I want you to understand. Star Maker Mitch is out. You shouldn't worry about Star Maker. He was just a kind old man that lived across the street, in the apartment over here, and this and that. Evil exists. We must have the discernment. We must have the discernment and the understanding to know how to at least protect. The parents were crushed. Crushed. I got a Christmas card every year from the police department, even though they moved. I got a Christmas card every year from the parents that simply said, thank you for saving our kids. I didn't think I saved their kids. Just did the job and took a bad guy off the street. I thought about the other 36,000 victims. Go ahead. How many social media accounts do you have? How many do your kids have? By the way, there are apps on the App Store and Google Play that are made to simply hide other apps. They look benign. They look like map apps. They look like weather apps. And other apps hide inside them. Just keep that in mind. What are you doing with your, what are they doing with your data? Quick answer, they're selling it. Know who your social media friends are. Befriend them. Befriend your kids. And befriend your kids' friends. Know what's going on. They shouldn't be shy to say those things. Use your privacy settings. And if the app is free, your product. And I wanted to end with this one. It's a little bit long, but I wanted to end with it. And I appreciate you inviting me here again. It means a lot to me. James 1 through 27. James, a servant of God and of the Lord Jesus Christ, to the 12 tribes in the dispersion, greetings. Count it all joy, my brothers, when you meet trial of various kinds, and you know the testing of your faith produces steadfastness. And let steadfastness have its full effect, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing. If any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask God, who gives generously to all without a reproach, and it will be given to them. Rejoice. I will say, if I had not worked that case, if that family had not walked in and opened my eyes and really I got this injustice bone, I just had to get this joker. I had to. And then from that point on, I went, who's next? There's more out there. Find more, find more, find more. I get calls even every day to find these things. If I didn't have that, if I didn't have to go through that, if I didn't have to see all of that, I would not have been able to grab the skills. God, give me the skills to then teach to others, to then hopefully help find more of these people. Count it all as joy. We'll get to questions in a minute. I wanted to talk about Numbers, and I'll pray for us then, Matt. Thank you. Numbers 6:24 through 26. I wanted to end with this because I really do mean this. Because this is not an easy class. I mean, I teach 3 or 4 hours of this with law enforcement. It's way deeper than this, and they even look as stunned as most of you look right now. Okay? But I want you to understand, I wish the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you, and the Lord turn his face toward you and give you peace in the Lord's time. Let's pray. Lord, thank you for the time that you've granted today. Thank you for Matt, Kirsten, for the kids, and for everybody else who's worked so hard to make Aspen Grove what it is today. Bless those that will be coming in the future. Bless those that were here today. Put your hand on everybody here. Guide them and help them to be and have the discernment that you promise your followers.